Man must suffer to be wise. So says Aeschylus, a playwright contemporary with Sophocles. The Greeks of the classical period, or Golden Age, are often viewed as pessimists, and not unreasonably so, as it was there and then that tragic drama, one of the bleakest forms of art, was conceived. Indeed, we see this bleakness in the extreme in the story of Oedipus. The classic question of Sophocles' Oedipus Rex concerns the tension between fate and free will. Could Oedipus have done things differently? I'd like to frame this question in terms of self-knowledge and ignorance, which just so happens to be the central question of philosophy. Perhaps Aeschylus had it backwards. For Oedipus, knowledge, discovering his identity, is the cause of his suffering, and not the other way around. However, this is not the whole story, since we see in the sequel to Oedipus Rex that Oedipus is transformed, and his newfound wisdom may be the source of his redemption. Along with his arrogance and his suspicious or even inquisitive nature, Oedipus's ignorance is ultimately the root of his misdeeds. For Tiresias, on the other hand, it is his knowledge of Oedipus's true identity that is the source of his distress, for it is hard to bear a difficult truth. So what is the difference between Oedipus and Tiresias in terms of ignorance and knowledge? Things really start to go wrong for Oedipus after he misinterprets the oracle's answer to his question of whether those who raised him are in fact his birth parents. I quote, "Apollo did not honor the request I came with, but instead sent me away with words revealing other awful and unhappy things for me." Unquote. But the oracle did answer the question, but not in a way that Oedipus could recognize. In the lines immediately following, we read the prophecy. Oedipus will sleep with his own mother, show to human eyes a race unbearable to see, and kill his birth father. Oedipus does not see that he will, in the future, answer his own question in the deeds the oracle foretold. But Oedipus is by no means unintelligent. Only Oedipus is able to solve the riddle of the Sphinx, and so save Thebes from plague. His confidence is evidenced by the fact that the Sphinx would kill those who attempted to solve the riddle and failed. If you have not solved the riddle for yourself, the answer is that the creature is the human being, who crawls as an infant, walks upright as an adult, and leans on a cane in old age. But why is it that Oedipus misses the point of the oracle completely, but is able to solve the riddle of the Sphinx? I think one way of understanding the difference between the prophecy and the riddle is in terms of time. The prophecy tells what will happen in the future. The riddle says something that is true now, or true in general. In this case, a truth about the nature of the human being. Tiresias has knowledge of the future, and thus must have some special relationship to the gods who pronounce prophecies, in particular Apollo. When Tiresias resists revealing Oedipus's identity as the killer of Laius, Oedipus responds in anger, not unreasonably, questioning Tiresias as to why, if he is so wise, as everyone believes, he did not solve the riddle of the Sphinx before to save the city, and why he withholds the identity of Laius's killer now, refusing to save the city again. Tiresias has no response because he was incapable. Is he blind to the here and now? Is this why, unlike Oedipus, he is not able to solve the riddle of the Sphinx? We should note how rational and deductive Oedipus's investigation of the murder of Laius is. He proceeds methodically, scientifically, always looking for sufficient evidence. His relationship with knowledge, or wisdom, is radically different from that of Tiresias. In Oedipus at Colonus, Oedipus repeatedly stresses his innocence on the grounds that he was unaware of committing any crimes. Quote, I murdered and destroyed Creon, caught by doom, but clean under the law. I came to this in ignorance. He stresses that he is the victim and not inherently evil. Quote, my deeds were suffered more than perpetrated, yet how am I by nature evil? He even holds Thebes responsible for his misdeeds. I bore evil against my will. None of those things were my choice. The city bound me to a marriage that was doom. He claims that he was compelled to these actions against his will, and so his ignorance relieves him of any culpability, and this is not unreasonable. Oedipus Rex ends with the exile of the fallen king, and the sequel begins showing a radically transformed Oedipus. Far from king, he is a pitiful blind beggar, but as we soon see, he has become somewhat of a prophet. Now blinded like Tiresias, he can see the future, at least his own future, and in particular the circumstances of his own death. The one fate that we all trust is inevitable. As soon as he discovers that he walks on sacred ground, impure to tread, and sits, as it were, on a forbidden throne, he recognizes certain signs that Apollo told him about, which might, quote, grant some closure and conclusion to my life. I think the knowledge of his own end is in fact liberating and allows him to choose his own death, at least the time and the circumstance. And this knowledge may even allow him to redeem himself, to purify himself of an inherited pollution. Oedipus makes it so that his death is a gift to Athens. His son Polynices finds himself in a similar situation, but it is worth noting the differences. Polynices knows of an oracle which says that if he returns with Oedipus to Thebes to fight for the throne contested by his brother, he will succeed. If not, he will fail and die. After Oedipus refuses his entreaty to accompany him as an ally, he resolves nonetheless to return to Thebes, to die a death which, as his sister Antigone pleads, he can choose to avoid. Polynices, perhaps futilely, chooses his course of action in full knowledge that it will result in death. And an interesting wrinkle to this choice is that he chooses not to tell those who will fight by his side. In their ignorance, they are not allowed to choose their fate. For Oedipus, on the other hand, it is the appropriate time to die, and with his death he claims to bestow a great gift, one that will preserve Athens as long as Theseus and his sole successors keep it secret. Quote, I will explain to you the things your city will have stored away for it, unpained by age. Unquote. What exactly this gift consists of, and how exactly it has the power to benefit Athens, is mysterious to say the least. Oedipus tells us only that it is taboo, and that the secret place or chasm where he will stay is sacred. Quote, never tell any human being where this is, that it may render you protection evermore. The things that are taboo, which must not be disturbed by words, you'll learn yourself when you go there alone. The nature of his death is mysterious as well. Though he is blind, he leads the way to his unknown tomb. At the crossing of paths, he knows which way to go. Before his mistake had sealed his fate, when he took the wrong turn and did not recognize his father, taking his life in rage. Quote, when he came to the precipitous threshold, rooted within the earth with steps of bronze, he stopped on one of the many paths that forked away from there, near to the hollow bowl. Unquote. A messenger reports an obscure picture of Oedipus's death, seen from a distance. Quote, you there, you Oedipus, what is delaying us from going? You have slowed things down for too long. Unquote. The gods wait on Oedipus. The Eumenides, the ones kindly not referred to by their deathly names, invite Oedipus, and he complies. It is his will, not a fate willed by the gods, that moves him. Quote, "No fiery bolt of thunder from God destroyed him, nor a tempest from the sea. No, the gods sent him some escort, or Hades, the earth's unlit foundation, being well disposed to him, gaped open. Neither Zeus nor Poseidon urge him by force, but the gates of the world open up for him." Quote, "The man was not sent off with weeping, or distressed by sickness, but in some amazing way, if ever any mortal was." Unquote. What is truly remarkable about Oedipus is that ultimately he faces his death without fear. And if all that wasn't enough for you, let me leave you with perhaps the most well-known quote from Greek literature. "Not to be born is best of all, but once one has appeared, to go as fast as possible, to the place from which one came, is second best by far." So thank you for listening, and I look forward to our further discussions on the forums.